Alright, welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05. Rumor has it that the new mini set is right around the corner, so I decided to fit one extra Top 5 before that comes. Even though the meta feels pretty unbalanced, at High Legend and from Diamond to Legend, there are plenty of working archetypes that can really take you there. So in this video I will feature 5 of the best performing decks, and I'll also give you all of the working archetypes for each particular class. As always, I'm gonna include a Mulligan guide, the win rates, if it's worth crafting, and also an overview of each deck, so stick around till the end. Before we get into the video, I would like to make you a deal offer. You hit the like and the subscribe button, and I keep making these videos. Alright, let's cut the crap, let's get into the video. The first deck on the list this time is gonna be Miracle Rogue, because as the name shows, it really can do miracles in skilled hands. This deck has insane turns, and it plays a tons of cards, and there's a lot of APM involved in it too, with plenty of RNG slots. This particular version has a few new inclusions that we're not really used to, one of which is Yoink, and we also have 2 Broomsticks, which are not that common nowadays. Overall, you have plenty of game plans with this deck, including Kazakus with its huge golems, also Jandis with all of the broken 5-drops in there, and you also have the OTK potential with Alexstrasza, Tenwu, and your Wicked Stabs. You have your 1/5 so you can discover extra burn from there, and we obviously have the Field Contact, which is why the deck is called Miracle, because with it you can literally draw your entire deck before turn 10. You also have the 2 Octobots, with which you can discount key cards for you, and you're gonna be extremely happy if you hit the discount on your Tenwu, Field Contact, Jandis, Alex, and maybe even some of your burn cards. This deck is extremely powerful, but it really has a very high skill cap, so if you're not ready for the challenge, you're probably not gonna be too good with it. Oops, somebody told me that my face is actually in the way of the deck, so let me move myself real quick. Yeah, here's the whole thing. But now let's move down to the matchups. This list is not very populated yet, so let's move down to something a little more populated and a little more standard. This list doesn't run Yoinks, but runs Foxy Frauds instead. And as you can see, your problematic matchups would be Warrior, Priest will not be too great, and Secret Libram Paladin can be a problem too. Although, if you're very skilled with the deck, usually it's gonna be at least a 50-50 for ya. Face Hunter is also a little in the red, but anything else looks pretty green. I'm gonna need to use the other list for the Mulligan guide as well, because again, this one doesn't have enough stats. But still, you can check out how it goes with and without the coin from this particular list too. For the more populated list, when you're going first, you can see that still Efficient Octobot, Mankrik, Kazakus, Field Contact, and Jandis will be pretty good keeps for you, because those are key components for your early and mid game. Swindle is also a pretty good card, but you gotta find a way to actually combo it. Other than that, I'm not too sure you want to be keeping the rest. When on the coin, it's kinda pretty much the same, but here Prize Plunderer is also not a bad keep, because you will be second, so you will need to be answering your opponent's boards. Cult Neophyte also makes a lot of sense, but it could also make a lot of sense when you're going first, because your opponent is gonna be having the coin, and if you feel like they're into a coin turn, dropping the Cult will totally negate that effect. That's it about the Miracle Rogue list, and I do believe it's pretty worth, as long as you're okay with learning such a high difficulty level deck. For other working Rogue decks, you can also check out Secret Rogue, which is pretty similar, and it still has the miracle effect with it, and it's also doing pretty good, if not better, especially on a little lower ranks than top 1000 Legend. Poison Rogue is also just barely still kicking, but all in all, if you're going for Rogue, you're probably gonna be better off with the miracle version. Next up, let's check out Deathrattle Demon Hunter, with a new list, which I'm pretty sure Draco Cat came up with. This Nazad Deathrattle Demon Hunter looks pretty similar to the old lists, but we have a few pretty cool inclusions, including the True Aim Crescent, Sneaky Delinquent so you have something sticky on the board, which is also a Deathrattle, Kurtrus, which is a decent, somewhat board clear for you in the early game, and we also have Vectis, which can copy a lot of your cool Deathrattle effects. Other than that, everything else seems pretty standard. The cool thing about True Aim Crescent is that you can actually trigger off Deathrattle effects on the turn you play them, not to mention the huge interaction with Ace Hunter Kree, with which you can basically delete something for free. One key thing to remember with True Aim Crescent is that the minions will attack in the order that you have played them in, and not the way you've placed them on the board. So try to remember how you're putting down your minions. We also have Mankrik here, which is not your typical Deathrattle Demon Hunter card, but the dude is still pretty good, and you have a lot of card draw with this deck anyway, so you usually find the wife in a timely manner. Which is not very close to reality, is it? We also have Nazat, which always summons one of your Illidari Inquisitors back, because it's the only demon you're running in the deck. And be careful to keep it that way, because from Illidari studies, there are quite a few outcast cards that do summon random demons for you, and you don't want that to happen. For the matchups, you can see that Druids are not gonna be too fun, and same goes for Face Hunter. But everything else seems super green for you. aside from Rogue. The good news is you're gonna be great against Paladins, Priests, most of the Warriors, and even against Warlocks, so if you're sick of losing to Priests and Warlocks, then this is the deck for you. When going first with it, you're gonna want your cheap Deathrattle dudes, and also the Tusk is gonna be pretty nice for you. Depending on the matchup, Curtis can be a very good tempo swing for you, deleting 2 of your opponent's minions basically for free, and if you're already somewhat curving into it, I guess Death Speaker can also make a lot of sense. But I'm not too sure you want to be keeping it without anything else, because you just might not reach turn 7 that way. Sneaky Delinquent also makes a lot of sense, and Mankrik too. When on the coin, as you can see, your win rate is gonna be dropping quite a lot, but you basically get to keep the same cards. Renowned Performer also becomes a lot more keepable, because he's basically a removal with a couple of taunts attached to it. One important thing to notice here is that Skull Gul'dan seems to be not that great of a keep for you, and you would rather curve out into it at a later stage of the game and not just keep it from turn 1. If you already have some good cards beforehand, and you're gonna be able to outcast the Skull, I guess you probably could, but I guess usually you don't really want to be keeping it early. This deck is quite expensive, but it's really strong right now, so you're probably not gonna be too sad crafting it, as long as the new mini set doesn't break it too much. There are quite a few niche legendaries in here, so really think twice before investing all of your dust into this. Rumor has it that the new mini set is dropping early June, so who knows what the meta will look like after that, so I'd rather you save off your dust and not dump it into a single deck like this. For the other good working Demon Hunter decks out there, Lifesteal Demon Hunter is still gonna be insanely good in skilled hands, and there's actually a hybrid version with Deathrattle and Lifesteal Demon Hunter doing actually quite good. But also the classic Lifesteal is still pretty good, and from Diamond to Legend you can still check out Midrange Demon Hunter too, for which I have a guide on my channel. Next up, let's talk about Control Priest. After the buff to Nazat, this is one of the best performing priest decks out there, which is running quite a few tribes in it too. We have the Scorpid as your beast, Southsea Scoundrel as your pirate, and also Light Shower Elemental as your elemental. But you can also get a bunch of other tribes from your Soul Mirror, and you obviously also have dragons from Draconic Studies, so there's actually quite a lot of value you can get from your Nazat. Raise Dead usually helps you get a bunch more Sedex and Scorpids, and you also have Samuru for the huge Apotheosis combo, with which you can clear the entire board and heal off to full, and Zarella kinda does the same. The deck is definitely not easy to pilot, but if you master it, you're gonna have a very hard time losing to anything. It can cheat out so many resources, and it can literally stall the opponent for days. After the nerf to Hysteria, this version runs only one of those. But don't worry, because from the Sedek and the Renew and the Scorpid, you can find a lot more where that came from. You also have the Southsea Scoundrel, with which you can even stand a chance against Control Warlocks nowadays. And if you time it correctly, you can even burn off a card or two for the opponent. For the win rates, no Minion Mage can be a problem. Paladins are not too hot usually, which is awfully weird because it's a very hard matchup in my experience. Primordial Druid can be a problem, and Control Warlock is still obviously very hard. But usually you don't really get to see too many of those nowadays. For the Mulligan, it really comes down to what you're playing against, but generally, when you're first, you're gonna want your Scorpid, Zarella, Hysteria, Elemental, and maybe Samuru. If you already have some good minions, like Wand Thief, like Wandmaker and Venomous Scorpid, you can also keep your Raise Dead early. But don't get baited into keeping Sedek early, because you're probably not really gonna get too much value out of it early on. But technically you can bait out your opponent to use some resources on it, just because you know you have a Raise Dead to follow up with and get it back. Like I said, it's a really hard deck, and I'm not gonna pretend I understand the whole Mulligan phase for it when going first, but practicing with it will help you pick out the better choices. When going second, it's kinda the same, with Samuro and Zarella as your two big early game removals. Condemn might also help you out on some particular situations, and same goes for Hysteria, but again, you really need to know what you're playing against so you can choose the correct removal. Holy Smite makes a lot of sense, and Venomous Scorpid and Palm Reading too. I'm not sure why Apotheosis is so high on the list right now, but I guess it's gonna work out for you not too bad if your opponent actually leaves a minion for you. Or maybe the whole point is to reach your Apotheosis Blademaster Samuru earlier. Is the deck worth the craft? Well, it's Priest, so no. But if I have to be serious, Priest is just a very good class to be playing with, especially in High Legend. And again, if you're up for the challenge and ready to put in the work, you're probably gonna have great results with Priest. You can probably see that the stats don't really back it up in most ranks, but that's exactly the reason. People are just misplaying with it and don't know how to pilot it optimally. There are also plenty of other control priests out there right now, with lists running Ysera, Yaxaron, and Khatun, and Nazat, with Malagos, with Giants, and all sorts of other wonky priest decks, with close to 50% results. But yeah, if you really start understanding how to play with this deck, you're gonna have a lot better results than that. On the number 4 spot, I'm still gonna be putting down the Secret Libram Paladin. The list is still very strong, and it can climb you a lot of ranks if piloted correctly. The Nazat Paladin is also working pretty good, so it really comes down to your preference. Right now, in top 1000 Legend, maybe the Nazat Paladin has the edge, but I still prefer the Secret Libram version because I feel more in control with it. The version I'm liking the most so far is the one with the Penflinger and the 2 Libram of Judgments, but there are also different versions without Penflinger and with only 1 Libram of Judgment instead of the Libram of Justice. No reason for me to really talk about this deck too much, because I already have a dedicated guide for it in the channel, so you might want to just check that one out. Let's move down to the matchups now. As you can see, almost everything is deep in the green, with a few slight exclusions. Primordial Druid is close to 50%, Control Priest can be very annoying, and like I said, against a Skill Priest you're gonna have a lot harder time winning than losing. Nazat Paladin can be somewhat problematic, but usually it's a win. And also Control Warlock can be pretty strong. But as you can see, everything else is pretty much in your favor. Again, you can check out the Mulligan guide with and without the coin from my last dedicated guide about it, with included coaching gameplay. And you also might want to drop by the stream tonight, because I will still be coaching with this deck to Legend. See you there. I really think the deck is still pretty much worth the craft, and as long as Blizzard doesn't nerf the Librams to the ground, which they really should have done for quite a while now, I do believe that Libram Paladin is gonna be a staple for the new year as well. Other than that, we still have Secret Aggro Paladin still doing great, the so-called Menagerie Paladin now is also doing quite fine, and there are plenty of different versions of these 3 lists. Basically, as long as it's Paladin, you can't go wrong. This is on page 3. We're at page 6 now and it's still 50+% win rate. Hey, finally something under 50%. But yeah, Paladin is just too good right now. And for the last feature deck for today's list, we have no Skill Mage. Oops, sorry, no Minion Mage. No Minion Mage is still hella strong after the nerfs, and even though it did slow down their pop-off turn, with Refreshing Spring Water being at 5 mana now, it's still as strong as ever. You can still see a lot of it in top 1000 Legend, you can still see a lot of it in the GMs, and in both cases you're gonna be seeing it winning a lot more than losing. This particular version is pretty standard right now, with only 1 Shooting Star and only 1 Flame Strike. Shooting Star can be incredibly strong later on, with a few spell power minions, and you usually get it down for 0 mana after only 1 Encanter's Flow, so it's also gonna be a pretty flexible spell for you. Flame Strike is huge, but I do see lists that are actually cutting all of the Flame Strikes out just because people are now playing around the Flame Strike around turn 6 or 7, but I still think it has its worth in the deck. Other than that, there's really not much to say about this deck. If you get Encanter's Flow early on, you're probably gonna win, as the stats show. The deck is still very strong, but you actually need to know how to win with it, because in matchups like against Paladin, you really can't just dish out your damage turn after turn, but you have to actually stack your damage and prepare for a huge late game turn. You have to find the balance between burning your opponent and actually taking control of the board, so don't be afraid to use Apex Blast on an actual minion on the board instead of the face, because if you manage to stick a board, it's probably gonna be a lot more than 5 damage in the face. Anyway, for the matchups, as you can see, Face Hunter is gonna be pretty hard, but also all of the Paladins usually are not that easy too. But again, if you get early Encanters, it's probably not gonna be that hard. Token Druid can be pretty problematic, Miracle and Poison Rogue can definitely be trouble, and same goes for Rush Warrior. From Diamond to Legend, it's a lot more populated, but the results are still pretty much the same. For the Mulligan guide, when you're going first, you're really gonna want your Encanter's Flow. Shocking, I know. When you don't have Encanter's Flow, you might just wanna toss the whole thing. But I guess Fount of Power still makes the cut. If you do have Encanter's Flow, you can also keep some card draw, and even Refreshing Spring Water, because it's gonna be huge for you to get all of those cheated out cards faster. When on the coin, and I cannot stress this enough, you really want your Encanter's Flow. One might say this card is busted and needed a nerf, but not Blizzard, not them. They don't think that. Again, same situation, Fount of Power is still strong, Refreshing Spring Water so you can get those cards faster, and when going second, I guess even an Apex Blast makes some sense as long as you have Encanters already. The deck is definitely worth the craft because you're basically not really gonna be crafting anything. It's super cheap, there's no legendaries in there, and the games are usually pretty quick too. It's a deck with which you will be able to win a lot on low ranks, but you're also gonna be able to win a lot on high ranks too. So yeah, I really cannot not recommend it. Other than that, for Mage, there's really no realistic alternative, but if you really want to play something different than no Minion Mage, you can check out this Spell Damage Mage, which obviously has a lot less win rate. For the classes I didn't mention today, let's head on down to Druid, where Primordial Druid and also Token Druid take the cake. For Hunter, we still have Face Hunters at the top, and you can check out my guide about it. The Lyrox OTK Hunter is also still a thing, but I'm gonna leave that one to Hatrick. For Shaman, here are all of the good working meta decks for it and other hilarious jokes we can tell ourselves. With Warlock, we only have Control Warlock at the top, but for Zulog there's actually a 50.9% win rate deck, so oh boy, Zulog is back on the menu. But yeah, it's not. And with Warrior, we still have Rush Warrior at the top, there's some kind of a weird Taunt Warrior as well, and also Control Warrior is somewhat in there. But yeah, if you're going with Warrior, you best be going Rush. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope this top 5 helps you pick your next best meta deck. Let me know in the comments what's your favorite deck right now. And also, don't forget you can hit me up for some coaching. A like and a subscribe would really be appreciated. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video, or stream.